Hey, look at that. I'm not dead. I really want to love Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and in many ways I do. I love it when it's got to do with Sam Raimi's beautiful, earnest, sincere directing. The script, not so much. Before the marketing for No Way Home kicked off, I'll admit I wasn't too fond of the multiverse getting introduced into the MCU. I loved In the Spider-Verse, but I liked it there. I've honestly never been interested in anything regarding the multiverse unless it was the main focus of a story, and even then, there are very few stories I feel can get it right. And even then, there are very few stories I feel can actually get it right. Everything Everywhere All at Once and Into the Spider-Verse handle the concepts of the multiverse, chef's kiss, really well. To put it bluntly, I feel about the multiverse in stories the same way I feel about time travel in stories. While I've liked some stories that have done it, most stories shouldn't do it, and franchises stories definitely should avoid it. The MCU has teased and baited the idea of the multiverse, especially in Far From Home, which in the end I was actually glad it didn't do it. I'm not the biggest fan of, but upon revisiting the film, it may be far from perfect in my eyes, but I give credit where credit is due. It's Peter Parker's story through and through, and it's not about other characters. Eventually, the MCU would do the multiverse for real though, with Spider-Man No Way Home, and I gotta say, for the longest time, I really did love this movie, and I still do in some parts. It was great. I got to see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man one more time, two of my favorite actors to ever play a superhero ever. I also got to see the Italian Stallion, Alfred Molina, and William Defriend all over again. It was a great Sam Raimi reunion, and it really made me excited for the future of the multiverse in the MCU. I really want to see how Doctor Strange would handle the multiverse, and after watching the film a couple times and going back to watch No Way Home and Loki, I can honestly say all my doubts and skepticism of the multiverse in the MCU were very much correct. Let me explain. For those of you who haven't seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, why are you watching this video? It can't be just to hear my voice, because I can tell you I do not have a good voice. Go watch the movie. But for those of you who have, I'm not going to go over the plot, my themes, or the stupid as hell cliffhanger end credit scene. I really don't care about that. God, it looks ugly. But I do want to talk about the very premise of the film itself, and its placing in relation to the other films in the MCU, and a little theory I have as to why we got the story we got. First off, let me say, Sam Raimi, god damn. I would actually say this is one of the best directed MCU films. I can't even lie. So good, I think it throws an even bigger microscope on the mediocre script of the film itself. Now, as time goes on, I've grown to regard most live-action films produced by Disney in the modern day to have rather mediocre scripts. Not terrible, but far from the best. Usually they're serviceable and functionable to a certain degree, sometimes on the high end and sometimes to the low end. And the MCU is no exception. Yeah, sometimes you'll get Civil War, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Doctor Strange film, the first Iron Man film, etc, etc, etc. But most of the time you'll get your Ant-Man, your Black Widow, your Captain Marvels. Not terrible scripts, but far from the greatness they could have been. That's what the script for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness feels like. And speaking of the good doctor, it's really not his story, or at least it's not a follow-up to his first film. Ironically, a more accurate title for the film would have been The Scarlet Witch in the Multiverse of Madness. Strange has a decent subplot in the film, but that's what it is. It's a subplot. In all actuality, Strange feels more like a framing device for the conflict with Wanda and the themes of the film, rather than an actual character who goes on a profound, life-changing journey like in relation to the first film. I mean, we get Wong though, and well, Wong is always a W. Come here, Wong. I love you, baby. This change in the narrative made me want to go back to Doctor Strange's first movie, and it's actually shocking how much I appreciated it watching it again, rather than when I first viewed it years ago, because I really didn't like the film the first time I watched it. Strange's character arc is probably one of the most profound and spiritual arcs I've ever seen in the MCU. There's a sense that whatever journey Doctor Strange is embarking on, it's a far bigger and more challenging journey than just putting on a suit of armor and still being able to flirt with your hot assistant and chill with your best friend before he's recast. The final conversation between Strange and the Ancient One is one of the most profound, touching scenes in the entire MCU and a greatly underrated moment.
You wonder what I see in your future?
Yes.
I never saw your future, only its possibilities. You have such a capacity for goodness. When you first came to me, you asked me how I was able to heal Jonathan Pangborn. I didn't. He channels dimensional energy directly into his own body.
He uses magic to walk.
Constantly.
So I could have my hands back again.
And the world would be all the lesser for it. We don't get to choose our time. Death is what gives life meaning. You'd think after all this time I'd be ready, stretching one moment out into 1,000, just so that I can watch the snow.
There's always a line drawn in most MCU scripts to where you can see what came from the writer and what came from the standard MCU formula used to bait in the paint chip eating motherfuckers that, are kind of addicted to the IP. That line in the first Doctor Strange film is thick as steel. Scott Derrickson's script treats Stephen Strange with a level of sincerity and nuance that I love, that I haven't really seen that much since the first Iron Man film, which is probably why the two remind me of each other, even though they are very different films altogether. And because it's a rather self-contained script, there's less focus on franchise writing in it. Unlike a lot of other MCU films of the time that are throwing all this information at you with little context that you're going to have to take at face value or do your homework on, the first Doctor Strange film literally only cares about Stephen Strange and his story. And when comparing it to the Multiverse of Madness, it's like night or day. That being said, there's no sinister, no pun intended, reason as to why the Multiverse of Madness feels this way. In fact, the clues as to why have either been explicitly stated or you can fill in the blanks. The Multiverse of Madness suffers from two main issues with its script. One, the gimmick of the multiverse. It's something you have to completely commit to or leave just as a device so your plot can work. Everything, everywhere, all at once does the first one. Focuses entirely on the concept as much as Back to the Future focuses on time travel. Into the Spider-Verse uses it just as a device to allow the plot to happen, in a way that Terminator uses time travel for its plot. The Multiverse of Madness suffers from the half-measured approach. It plays with the idea, but really only on a surface level. We never fully experience the multiverse, but rather just one universe that gets really no development. This is the problem the script is already dealing with its second problem. Marvel is basically the GOATs at franchise writing at this point. They are pretty good at connecting their stories together. It's honestly a talent how they manage to weave multiple different stories from multiple different films and shows into one universe. Yet, Multiverse of Madness feels like it's in a weird place. It doesn't feel like it's a proper sequel to Doctor Strange, and its placing in the whole multiverse arc feels kind of weird. And there's a reason for that actually. Originally, Multiverse of Madness was supposed to be set before Spider-Man No Way Home, and America Chavez would have actually been a bigger part of that movie. It's safe to assume that lots of the cheap ass pulls of No Way Home, like, Ned pulling magic right out of his ass, and some of the multiverse mechanics would have been more connected to America Chavez and, not Ned pulling magic out of his ass in a way we've never seen before ever, in a way that makes no sense. I don't care, it's fucking stupid. I really hate that so much. Okay, I'm getting off topic. If you think about it, No Way Home makes a lot more sense in the original placement of coming after Multiverse of Madness. This is where I think the problem lies. From the way the WandaVision creators talked, they went with what they thought would be the bigger subversion to where people thought the story would go, and went against what would have been the logical conclusions and emotional payoffs for the series because it would have been too predictable. And yeah, that always worked out the last time someone did it, didn't it? The entire final battle with Agatha feels like a rushed rewrite job. Replace her with Doctor Strange, and suddenly the ending makes more sense while allowing Wanda's character to stay intact without a weird sequel hook that she really doesn't belong in. Just think about it. Wanda realizes what she's done, frees the town, says goodbye to her children, and Strange allows Wanda to leave, knowing that while she did something horrible and her status as an Avenger is now gone, everyone deserves a chance at redemption, making Wanda the true antagonist of her own series, yet understanding that she can still one day come back from it. This is impossible in the Multiverse of Madness, which is ironic since we absolutely will see the character again, and she is way too far gone in that film. The biggest thing going against Multiverse of Madness is its placing in the franchise of the MCU that had to be moved from one area to the other. Does the film function? Yeah, it does, but it functions pretty roughly. Imagine how smoother the film would have been if it went like this: WandaVision, the beginning of the multiverse, Loki, Doctor Strange 2, and finally No Way Home, which would close off the multiverse arc of the MCU and allow us to return to the normal flow of the universe. Also, ending with the return of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is one hell of a send-off for the multiverse arc. Overall, I really enjoyed Multiverse of Madness for Sam Raimi's lovely direction, but its writing fell flat for me. I'm done with the whole multiverse concept and ready to move on, and I really hope Marvel is as well. It was a fun gimmick, but my biggest disappointment in all these stories is that, in hindsight, I would have enjoyed all these stories just to focus on its central hero instead of these crossover multiverse shenanigans. The MCU are the kings of franchise writing. It's why they keep growing and killing it at the box office, but honestly, I long for the days of solo films with little to no crossovers or setting up the next big thing. Their screenplay's first and only goal was telling a story about their title hero, and I dig that. When it came to Doctor Strange, his story felt put on pause from the first film. His character were in service of the plot rather than the deeply introspective and profound journey he went on in the first film. Honestly, in rewatching his first film to prepare for Multiverse of Madness, it became one of my favorite in the MCU. When it comes to Wanda, her story was great, the best part of the film, but it felt like it was something that we should have gotten in WandaVision or even her own movie. At the end of the day, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is okay, and that's a problem when you have a recipe for greatness but you're stuck with a script that's only functional. But that's all I got for y'all. Hey everyone, it's been a while since the last video. Recently I moved into a new place, started working on a new project, and I got COVID again. So it's been a bit of a busy May, busier than I was hoping it'd be since I really wanted to focus on making a lot of videos this month. My manager is gonna beat my ass because she hates delays, and it's been a 3-week delay. So if you guys can, if you care about my well-being, can you like the video, leave a comment, and if you really want to like it, how about you subscribe to the channel and tell my manager not to beat my ass? Okay. You guys know where to find me on Twitter, the first Okairo. Go into the comments, you guys can join the Discord server that I'm usually on and rambling about and all that fun stuff. Thank you wonderful people for continuing to click on my videos. It's always a pleasure. Be safe, be happy, and I'll talk to y'all the next time.